Guys, welcome to Lab 9, Metamorphic Rocks and the Rocks cycle, mainly more just Metamorphic Rocks. So to kind of recap, you guys learned about igneous rocks. And then last week, we looked at sedimentary rocks and sedimentary structures. And now you guys are looking at the last category of rocks is metamorphic rocks. So let's get started. So to kind of start with this is what do metamorphic rocks pretty much form from? So what are metamorphic rocks? Well, metamorphic rocks form from a pre-existing rock that undergoes heat and pressure. So that's kind of the main thing is a pre-existing rock has to already be established. So, and that's called a protolith, a parent rock that undergoes heat and pressure, and that's how you get a metamorphic rock. Those are, and again, those are the two main things you get that forms a metamorphic rock is that heat and pressure. And any rock can go through with pretty much heat and pressure or metamorphism, can go through that and be turned into a metamorphic rock, can become a metamorphic rock, an igneous rock, a sedimentary rock, and even a metamorphic rock can go through more heat and pressure and turn into another metamorphic rock. And so that's kind of the main takeaway from this slide is that protoliths, so parent rocks, undergo that heat and pressure and pretty much turn into a metamorphic rock. And then a last kind of another takeaway is even though it goes through heat and pressure, there is no melting in the metamorphic process. If a rock does melt, if you will, and then it cools, that's an igneous rock. Any rock that undergoes melting is an igneous rock. So that's just kind of one takeaway is that you have a parent rock that could be igneous, sedimentary, or metamorphic. It goes through intense heat and pressure, and it becomes a metamorphic rock. And now to expand upon the pressures, there are two types of pressures you guys will be looking at in this lab. And that's confining and directed. Confining is pretty much uniform, equal pressure all around. So it's pretty much, it's pressure applied equally to the rock, to the surfaces of a rock body, if you will. Think of it as jumping in a pool. When you first jump in a pool, the water kind of presses on your body equally. That's kind of the same thing as confining pressure. And the other type of pressure is called directed pressure or directed stress. Pressure and stress are pretty interchangeable. And so directed pressure is pretty much going to be along a certain plane. And in this picture right here, the pressure is pretty much applied horizontally, and it kind of elongates this circle, this rock, if you will. And so directed pressure comes from a certain direction. And the reason you really kind of want to understand this directed pressure is directed pressure will kind of cause a process. Directed pressure will cause this property in metamorphic rocks called foliation. And what foliation is a result from that directed pressure. So foliation can't really be caused by confining pressure, but as a result from directed pressure, these metamorphic rocks will exhibit foliation. And what foliation is pretty much, think of it as banding. Think of foliation as banding within these metamorphic rocks. It's when these minerals or crystals pretty much respond to that pressure and become elongated and almost layer-like. Try not to think of them too much as layers. Think of them more as banding. So if you look at this rock here to the far right, this gneiss, all the way to the far right of the picture, you can kind of see the banding, like these black bands, and you can see these like elongated crystals within the rock. And that's a result of directed pressure, and that's foliation. And this is going to be important to know because being able to identify foliation in these metamorphic rocks will help you identify the metamorphic rocks. So again, takeaway point, think of foliation as banding, and it's a result from that directed pressure. And this only occurs in metamorphic rocks. It can't occur in igneous or in sedimentary rocks. It's layering. It's not foliation. And that's how foliation differs is like in sedimentary rocks, you have layers of certain sediment that pile up, giving you the sedimentary rock. But in more metamorphic rocks, is this banding is a result from that directed pressure. And it pretty much kind of elongates the crystals or minerals, and it results in this band-like appearance. And so that's going to be the biggest takeaway for this when you're identifying these metamorphic rocks. And some more examples of foliation are kind of these pictures right here. So you have, again, it looks like layering. Think of it more as banding. This middle picture here it's a really good picture showing the minerals and crystals being kind of elongated as a result from that directed pressure. And the far right one that's gone through even more metamorphism. As you can see, these crystals are almost completely flat. So that's going to really help you identify with metamorphic rocks. So now this is foliation, and this is what foliated metamorphic rocks look like. Now this is what non-foliated metamorphic rocks look like. So there's no layers, there's no banding in the non-foliated rocks. And it's just pretty much, they look like minerals that just kind of rearrange is how it's described. So that's kind of how you're going to identify these rocks, is that difference is you're going to look for that banding, that foliation. If it's there, then you can't kind of keep going down the chart. If not, then you're going to look at foliated rocks. And so this is kind of expanded upon more in the lab. But yeah, and then one last thing. So this is the rock cycle. This is kind of a chart of the rock cycle. And how you get, so the one we're looking at this week is metamorphic rocks. And again, how you get metamorphic rocks is if you follow the purple arrows, is that change in temperature and pressure. So heat, so yeah, change in temperature, so heat and pressure. Same with if you want to go from an igneous rock to a metamorphic rock, change in temperature, so heat and pressure. And so that's how you get a metamorphic rock in the rock cycle. If you're just looking at the purple arrows, take a sedimentary rock, add heat and pressure, metamorphic rock. Take an igneous rock, add heat and pressure, metamorphic rock. Take a metamorphic rock, add heat and pressure, still a metamorphic rock. And that's kind of how this is kind of how the rock cycle works. And this is what the diagram is trying to show. Like, and obviously on the reverse of that, if you want to melt a rock, you want to melt it then cool it, igneous. So if you want to go from sedimentary to igneous, just melt and cool it, igneous. If you want to melt and cool an igneous, still an igneous. So this is kind of how to read the rock cycle chart. Just kind of focus more on metamorphic rocks. And so that's pretty much it. Again, if you guys have any questions at all, please let me know. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you need to meet up with me at all, just let me know. Message me on Canvas, email me. I usually respond relatively quick. Otherwise, that's pretty much it for this lab. Again, let me know if you have any questions. The PowerPoint should already be up. And if you have any problems accessing any of the documents or anything in the lab, let me know. We'll work it out. All right. Otherwise, good luck. And yeah.